our next application?
You want
Yes,
the timer?
I want the timer.
Oh, wait a minute, we missed that the first few times.
I know. See, we're 10 minutes behind because of it.
Alex? Held Alex.
The applicant appearing before the board today is Robert J. Brown Leadership Academy. This interview will be led by Linda Lynn Cacadelis. They're proposing to locate in Guilford County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K2, 300 students. Year 2, K through 3, 389 students. Year 3, K through 4, 478 students. Year 4, K through 5, 568 students. Year 5, K through 6, 658 students. We do not have an LEA impact statement submitted for this application. We did have a due diligence report completed. Pass-fail ratings are as follows. Mission, purposes, and goals, 3 pass, 2 fail. Education plan, all fail. Governance and capacity, 3 pass, 2 fail. Operations, 3 pass, 2 fail. Finance, 3 pass, 2 fail. This applicant is requesting an accelerated planning year. They are a repeat applicant. As we mentioned, the application was submitted late last year and was not considered. They did receive assistance from Dr. Howard Coleman, and they're planning to partner with the Robert J. Brown Educational Equity Foundation. Finally, for RTO participation, Robert J. Brown was represented at the October RTO session. Robert J. Brown had 1 registrant, and this is according to the report from Dr. Williams. Robert J. Brown had 1 registrant in November, but no one attended the session. In December, Robert J. Brown had 2 attendees for most of the morning, but they did not return after their clarification interview.
Okay, we ask that board to come forward, please. Introduce yourself, and we'll get started.
Seated the Pensions and Finance Board.
What's your response to the due diligence?
Educational. I don't know. Where is it?
Are they power readers? Are we talking?
It's the clarification.
Okay. Yes,
Good morning.
please, go ahead.
I'm Brenda Williams, representing Robert J. Brown. Mr. Brown, of course, is, after yesterday with the release of this book, is on a book tour, and he's currently in Florida promoting this book. This book is about his life in High Point, and
He would come.
as it is titled, You Can't Go Wrong Doing Right. Mr. Brown rose as a child of poverty, and as we all know, ended up in the White House, which put High Point on the map. I knew Mr. Brown in the White House as I worked for Don Rumsfeld in the White House at that time. I have experience because I am a founder of a charter school, which was the high school in Washington, D.C. And when I came back to work with Mr. Brown at the end of 2017, he told me that he wanted me to help him design his legacy and execute the plan for that legacy, one of which is to have a charter school in High Point, which is his native hometown. There was some confusion around the Children's Legacy versus the Robert J. Brown Equity Foundation. And I wanted to make sure that that's cleared up because the foundation is, in fact, our partner. And we are partnering with Phoenix Academy, which gives us the security because they are a school and an organization that has a 20-year success record. So with that, and he saying to me, I've been to this school several times. I like what I see at this school. The kids are well behaved. I want my school to replicate that. And that's why we have the relationship that we have with Phoenix Academy. I would like to introduce my team, 2 of which are from Washington, D.C. Ms. Reeder, who is now currently a resident of North Carolina, and Mr. Brown, who I am bringing here very soon, who actually worked with me at my school and was head of the entrepreneurial program, and Mr. Carl Robinson, who is a native North Carolina, also a native High Pointer, who knew Mr. Brown. And so all of us are not only interested in education, but making sure that the legacy that Mr. Brown wants to leave in his native High Point is in fact done.
Ms. Williams, can I ask you a question real quick? You'd mentioned replicating Phoenix. It's not a technical replication from
No.
my reading. It's because that has a very technical meaning in our
No.
policy. So, but you're talking about taking some of the best practices.
The
away
best
from that. Okay.
practices and the experience that they have so that we don't make the same mistakes that a lot of people who have never started a school make.
Excuse me, will Mr. Brown himself be the board chair?
No, Mr. Brown is not going to be the board chair. He's chair emeritus.
What school in Washington, what charter school in Washington DC were you?
I had a vocational education school. It was called Young America Works.
Okay.
Ms. Reeder?
Yeah, let's hear from each of you, if you don't mind.
Good morning. So I'm actually now a resident of High Point, North Carolina.
You moved, I asked you that. The
You
clarification.
did,
I
you
said,
did.
are you gonna move?
So you guys got me here. You got to treat me right. Third generation Washingtonian, so this is a different life for me. But it's been great for the last couple of weeks that I've actually been here. I've actually had the wonderful opportunity of working in what I consider to be human capital development in Washington, D.C. for Mayor Williams during both of his tenure, and as a deputy director for a nonprofit organization who worked closely with all of the DC public schools in one of the most challenging regions in the District of Columbia. If you are familiar with DC, we're broken up into 8 wards. Ward 8 is southeast and southwest DC, which has some of the most egregious issues as it relates to economic development, education, poverty, and housing. I worked with an organization, which was one of the largest organizations in the city, to actually curtail a lot of the violence, poverty, and move many of the families out of poverty into self-sufficiency. And we did it based on models that I'm very proud to say that I also developed, which were evidence-based models that are now functioning in our schools. And that's what we would like to bring here, and that's one of the reasons why I'm working on this team. We had I believe we sent around, Dave, did we give everyone?
e-board, but
Oh, okay. We wanted to make sure you guys had a copy of the work that we've done in DC and how we see this being an opportunity to do much more of the similar work here in High Point as well. So that is what I'm bringing to the group, and you'll hear more about what we consider to be the Community Impact Center, which is a economic revitalization model, which education is very key. It's the first step to revitalizing a community through economic revitalization. So I'll pause there and give my colleagues an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Carl Robinson, and I'm a native High Pointer. I live in Greensboro now. I run a trucking company, but I've been involved with the education system for over 30 years because I have 3 daughters that attended the Guilford County school system. My focus is really on CTE program. I am on several boards and commissions in the local area and the state, and I wanted to be a part of this charter school because every time we go to we have a issue in Guilford County schools, it's either money or facilities. Money or facilities. We need to educate our students, period. And if I can be a part of something from the ground up, maybe we can influence how they teach our students so that when they come out, they not only can go to a secondary education system, but they also can go to work. Soft skills is very important. I'm the chairman of Workforce Development for Guilford County. I'm also on the Economic Development Board for Guilford County. So I have a unique perspective on what our students need to be when they graduate from high school. And it starts at the lower levels. We always say that we're going to introduce programs into our high schools, CTE programs and all. We need to start in elementary school. We need to start from the very beginning. I have two grandchildren that are currently in charter schools in Greensboro. So I understand the concept. I'm going to say the behavior pattern is completely different. I go to the school board meetings on a regular basis. I go to the schools on a regular basis. I participate in their career days. We take trucks out and let the kids understand what transportation is. It's not this big fat guy driving the truck anymore. I'm gonna say it that way. So that's why I'm involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Thomas Brown. No relation to Mr. Brown. However, very much attached to the work and the contribution he's made to not only the country but to High Point. I am a native Washingtonian. There's so many reasons why I'm passionate about this, but I'll just zero on a few that I think are relevant today. One is I have experience having worked with Ms. Williams at Young America Works on programming that are not just academically focused, but focused on the whole evolution and development of a student. Also, I was one of the founding educators and board members to bring KIPP into Washington, D.C., which we have 13 campuses now.
Wow.
I have a grandson and a daughter, grandson and a niece. I have 3 children gone through KIPP, and I have my daughter who just started at KIPP Durham 3 weeks ago after she graduated from North Carolina Central. She started within a week at KIPP Durham, and she's been there about 2 weeks, a little the winter break. So this is kind of a thing for me. I see the value in the charter school option for families. But one of the things that I've been able to spend most of my time on in those endeavors is helping to build up the community at large, starting with the parents. Because oftentimes, a lot of time, the experiences of the child is often challenged when they met with barriers at home. So I spend a lot of time on things, life skills, career exploratory options for parents to look at. Of course, we look at workforce development, life skills development through the community impact centers. These are kind of the things I look at for the parents. But then I also know that getting young people started on an early track of just understanding what citizenship looks like, understanding what it looks like to grow into a model representation of their community and of the country. So those are just the kind of things I stand for, believe in, have experience and passion for, and I look forward to the opportunity with this great organization. And I am, my wife is actually home shopping, so I've been encouraged, very much so though. I've always had a great affinity for the state of North Carolina. It's no secret in my family that I was going to land here anyway. I'm just honored to be a part of this organization and team, and should we be given the opportunity, I'd like to share some of the things I want to contribute in this endeavor. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, and which one of your board members are not here?
Mr. Brown.
Oh, well, yes, Mr. Brown.
Okay.
Mr. Brown is not here.
Right.
You really had to pull that microphone
Yeah, I
down.
did.
I wore my high heel tennis shoes today.
And
Okay,
Mr.
Corey
Ma-
Henry is listed.
Yes, Mr. Henry is not here. He is actually engaged in the transition of the new governor of Georgia right now.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's the reason he's not with us.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, and who's, have you picked an operator yet? Who's going to operate the school?
We have several.
Principal?
Yeah, we're going to use the rotating principal model. And so one of them is here with us, Miss Michelle Hawthorne.
Okay, could you go into a little bit of detail on the rotating principal? Because I don't think that was in the application, was it? Or did I miss it, guys?
I'll let Dr. Coleman answer that.
I've not, this is the first I've heard of that.
Yeah, we have 3 campuses at Phoenix Academy. Dr. Coleman, one of the principals there, and we actually rotate between those 3 campuses. It's the K-8 school. We have a K-1 building, a 2-5 building, and a 6-8. That's so that all the staff and students and parents get to know all the principals.
Why don't you introduce yourself too?
All right,
Please
I'm
go
Buddy
ahead.
Coleman, and I've been working with this group and also co-authored the GLOW application down in Wilmington it was based on the Young Women's Leadership Academy. Been in education for several years, retired professor, and a recovering school superintendent. So I'm doing
Okay, so, wait.
I got more questions about this rotating
Okay.
thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is this like you rotate year to year? Is this you rotate day to day? Like, how does that work?
Weekly. We're moving from building to building weekly to do that. And we'll be providing some support with that during the first year as well, and helping both Michelle as well as any assistant principals.
Or you'll rotate into their schools as well?
I don't recall the
well,
application
Dr.
having Phoenix
Coleman,
Academy on it.
Was this in the application?
No, this was some support that we were willing to provide if they were interested in doing that.
But what's the partnership with Phoenix Academy?
It's same CMO.
It's the CMO. That's the.
Phoenix Academy is a CMO?
No.
The Robert J. Brown
Equity.
Equity in
Foundation.
Education is the CMO. Formerly was called 7 Degrees of Change.
And that's
Which is
also the
CMO.
CMO for Phoenix?
And
That's also the CMO
CMO
for
of Phoenix.
Okay.
I personally think that's a big difference, whether that you're rotating principals in from another school, and I think that's a big thing that should have been in the app.
Is the I would agree it should have been in the app, but in the first year it's just one building.
Right,
one
we're
principal.
not rotating the first year.
Oh, okay.
No,
Who
no,
will
no,
be
no.
there?
We
This is
only
like
have
year-
one campus, one school.
This is like
That
year
we need to be
6.
very
We're
clear.
gonna
The
rotate.
acting principal
No.
will be supporting the principals.
Right, and one of the I think the strong suits of our board is that Mr. McNeil, who is not here because has a medical issue right now, but he is a former principal in Guilford County Schools, and he will be providing oversight. He's got over 37 years of experience having been in the DOD schools, so he knows the system, and that's one of the reasons why.
Is he then going to step down from the board and become the
No,
principal?
no, he's not.
just gonna be
But
an advisor?
he's
Advisor.
over, right, the advisor and expert on the board because he knows the system.
Okay.
So, but just going back to the original question about who is I heard Miss Hawthorne.
Yes.
Are you going to be the principal in the first year?
I'll be the assistant principal.
Okay, so we don't know who the principal is going to be yet,
We have not selected that person yet.
but it could be somebody from Phoenix that comes over, or
More than likely, it will be, the acting principal will be Mr. McNeil. He will leave the board.
Mr. McNeil.
Yes.
He may be.
Oh, okay.
Is he the same person who's the advisor?
Yes.
Yeah.
As we're training Michelle to become the principal, that's the goal, because of his experience.
So he won't be a permanent.
No.
He's not going to be the permanent principal, but like
He's retired.
He's
He'll
retired.
help the school
We
get
pulled
open
him out of
and then hand it over.
retirement.
He's going to be working hand in hand.
Right,
mentoring.
right, because of his experience. I
Right,
mean,
right.
you got 37 years in DOD schools
Yeah.
as principal, and then he came back out of retirement from the federal government and had principalship in 3 Guilford County schools.
Yeah, his resume is
Yeah.
extensive.
I've got a question here. On the Appendix E, the organization chart,
Just getting ready to ask that. Go ahead.
it's got well, if you'd like to go ahead.
No, go ahead, Alan.
It's got the principal answerable to a superintendent who's answerable to an education equity outfit that is answerable finally. No, not finally. Another intermediary, the Brown Foundation. I mean, it's kind of convoluted where the accountability and responsibility is here.
The ultimate accountability is, this is based on the management model, but the ultimate accountability is going to be with the Children's Legacy, which is the board of this school.
I guess my concern is there's like three or four entities between the principal and the top of the food chain here.
Well, no, let me just say that originally when Mr. Brown asked me to come down in 2017 to help him begin to design his legacy, he thought that he was going to do international as well as national schools. And so he created the Robert J. Brown Education Equity Foundation. That was to be the overarching entity. And when we decided that we were going to do one school in North Carolina and in High Point, and that would be his flagship school, we needed to create an entity that would embrace the international arena if we decided to do that, and to also be able to house anything and everything else that he wanted to include as a part of his legacy. That then is why we have the children's legacy.
Yeah, and maybe I got a letter talking about the information that was on our due diligence on there. Did everybody see the response they had trying to explain how all that was fitting together? And
We did not circulate that to the entire board.
I guess so.
Again, we're prepared to answer any of the questions that might come up with the due diligence.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of moving parts and who's doing what, and it, you know, I mean, for me, being a lawyer, I can piece it together, but I wouldn't expect somebody that's not, you know, if you're not as familiar with corporate structures and the way that things go and interplay, that you could say, I don't understand what's going on, because it's not something that we usually see with that many moving parts in one application.
So who's the superintendent?
Can I provide some assistance?
Please.
Yeah, if you,
So if we just look at the structure that you have, the Children Legacy is the actual board. The Robert J. Brown Equity and Education Foundation is the management structure. Okay, so they're managing the day-to-day operations of a school like any corporate management company would do. The superintendent, let's use a placeholder, let's say James McNeil, okay, because that's the person that we've already told you that he actually has the experience to be able to run this role. He's currently a board member. So he relinquishes his duty as a board member, become the school superintendent. Michelle will be the principal, and then the following groups will fall under that. We wanted to ensure that for Mr. Brown's legacy, that the Children's Legacy, which is his board, remains providing the oversight to the school. But the day-to-day management structure will be done through the RJB Equity and Education Foundation. That's the day-to-day managers of the school.
That's a management company.
That's a management company.
and Phoenix Academy just happens to be one of the schools.
That's managed by RJB Found, that's right. That's exactly right.
Phoenix Academy is a school that is managed by the same management company.
That's it.
So that's all that there is.
So where do the Norcrosses fit in here? Is Kimberly Norcross the superintendent?
No, she isn't. She's with Phoenix School.
She's with Phoenix.
But why is she mentioning all this stuff?
Because we use their very successful model with Phoenix Schools. That's one of your highest performing schools. So we partner in terms of using a model. When Mr. Brown actually went around to look at school models, he went to that school in particular and he said this school was an excellent school. The children were well maintained, he loved the curriculum, and we wanted to look at how we could partner with that school to ensure that we actually created a successful model. But there's no direct relationship in terms of them managing our school. The Equity Foundation is the management company that manages that school and will manage this school.
And Phyllis, just what you're looking at is you're looking at the due diligence report that the Office of Charter Schools did put together. So I don't remember in the application seeing
We didn't have
Kim
anything in that.
Norcross
that just came
mentioned in there. I think that came from the due diligence because Kim Norcross would be an employee of the Equity Foundation.
That's right.
As the superintendent of Phoenix Academy.
That's right.
Due diligence was done by one of our external evaluators and just started Googling a lot of the organizations that intermingled, and that is
That's how it came
her
about. So I'm
very quick report.
I guess I'm too simple to really understand why there's not a direct line of accountability between the principal or the lead administrator and the board. There just seem to be
I'd like to
too
chime
many
in.
intermediaries here.
I'd like to chime in on that, Alan.
We need to move
I
on.
would much rather see a school with a lot of passion of people that want to make sure the school succeeds than some applicants that we've seen where there's 2 or 3 people driving the whole ship and we don't know if they have the manpower and the willingness to make it work. I mean,
Their expertise.
to me, we're taking something that is a big positive that they've got an engaged community that wants to see this thing work, and we're turning it into, oh gosh, I don't understand how it works. we're making it more complicated. I think it's great that they have this passion of a group that wants to see this.
I do too, and there was,
You need to know,
Sure.
there needs to be
Who's
some
accountable?
setup, like who works for who. That needs to be
Who's
clear.
on first?
okay, we need to maybe move ahead on, I agree, but I think you've explained that. I think you've explained it, okay.
I just,
Stupid, 'cause I don't-
who is the EMO?
The EMO is,
The RJB
Equity and
Equity
Education.
Foundation, that's the management company.
Okay, so
Management
who is
company.
TCL?
That's the board that we're
That's the
interviewing
board,
right
the
now.
children's
That's the board.
legacy.
All right, so that's
You
what I
guys.
want to know. EMO
And I think,
is,
I guess maybe the confusion comes because the name of the school is the Robert J. Brown Leadership
Right,
Academy,
right.
That's what it is.
and,
which shares a similar name with the CMO,
Right.
but the board is the Children's Legacy.
and the boards are all separate.
Yes.
Nobody doing all
No,
this
no,
on
no,
all
no,
different
no, no.
boards. Right, the boards are different.
Yes.
Bruce wants to talk.
Okay, I'll go
I
ahead.
guess I do have one clarifying question.
you have to talk over us, Bruce.
I understand the concept of the board has hired the education management company. I guess what I'm not clear on is normally, or I shouldn't say normally, but what I'm familiar with is that the educational management company has then hired the principal then hires the staff. I'm not clear on the role of the superintendent. That there's a buffer between the educational management company and the principal. What's the role of that superintendent? That's not a model that I've seen before. It may just be me.
Well, and I think she explained that, I mean,
Because of his years of experience.
Right, it's oversight and guaranteed insurance that everything will be done right, because he does have.
He's the one with the 30-some years of
That's
experience.
Right,
Thank-
right.
That's
got it.
exactly.
Okay, got
Thank you
that.
for that
All right,
clarification.
let's move on, and let's talk about the educational plan.
Okay, Michelle.
Any questions on the educational plan?
Well, let's see, what was the ratings? Fails in all areas.
Or would you like to talk to us just a minute while we come up with questions about what you see as the educational plan?
Sure. So for the early literacy, we were looking at Super Kids, which is a Super Kids reading program that focuses on phonemic awareness, comprehension, composition, grammar, writing, and all of the necessary tools that they need to be successful readers. It's very interactive. In our day-to-day schedule, we have time for ELA in the morning, and then we also have enrichment or guided reading groups to balance off of that to focus more on small groups. As far as our math, we're using Saxon Math, which is a very interactive, hands-on program that is really good, and then both programs align with the state standards. And then for enrichment or extra guidance for a supplemental program is where if you look at applications, they have like Mastery Connect, Dreambox, and iStation, not as a core curriculum, but as a supplemental curriculum, as in accordance with the core that I just stated. Sorry, I'm cold.
It's fine. Okay, so that is, I appreciate the detail you went into the literacy program. Any questions from my colleagues on that?
Yeah, I mean, it just really struck me that we have these outside evaluators that gave the education plan fails across the board. And I would really like to hear you guys elaborate on your responses to why you think, number one, they gave you fails, and what you can tell us to convince us that that was an incorrect measure that they gave you.
I think why they gave us fails because it wasn't as detailed, so I can see how that can be more broad and not focus on the actual specific core skills that they need. And so what we did was elaborate more in detail on what systems that we would like to use in the school.
So, for example, you talk about K2 literacy, and we all agree that that's a big problem statewide.
Right.
What specific things are you going to do differently in K2 literacy that's going to assure third grade, read to achieve is going to be this great 90% or higher? That's
Well, I think that one of the things that we're going to do is the fact that the Super Kids program within itself is fun, it's interactive, so the kids don't realize that they're learning. It really brings them in, and it brings their life experience, which is going to be very effective in this community that we're addressing. And then the other component as far as the assessments and being data-driven, having the teachers dig into the data and making sure that the kids are grasping those skills along the way, and then being able to provide enrichment for those skills that they're not fostering or they're lacking in or having some struggle with.
You did not get to introduce yourself when the board
I'm
introduced.
sorry.
Well, no, and that was part of our fault. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to become the assistant headmaster, principal,
Yes.
whatever that
So my
operates?
name is Michelle Hawthorne. I know I look very young, but I've actually been in education for over 11 years. I've been a kindergarten teacher. I've helped with curriculum. I've helped with teacher assistance as far as like the TAP program, which is a teacher assistance team that help teachers within a school come up with strategies before they get an IEP or they go to EC. We give them strategies to use them within the classroom to help bring them up. And I just recently graduated from UNCG with my school administration license, and so that was why I needed the experience. So that's why I jumped on to get Headstrong, is to get the experience and to learn new things. For my passion, I'm really passionate about kids.
It shows.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the education plan?
I mean, I think I feel similarly as to the last one. I guess I think it's I'm surprised that it had all fails, despite needing, I think, further development. I thought it was actually more clear than the previous one, but
I feel like the external evaluators
found
were
those
reading
too.
something different than I
Tough.
was reading.
They were going kind of back and forth on some things.
Yeah, I feel like they would ding them for something that really wasn't supposed to be addressed till the next section, and then come in and then ding them for something that was in the next section. I don't know.
What is the curriculum? Do you all have you decided on any kind of reading or math curriculum?
Yes, Super Kids and
Super Kids.
Saxon Math.
I don't know Super.
Saxon
Does
Math.
anybody know
I'm not
that?
familiar.
I'm
with
familiar with Super Kids.
Okay. I love the kids love Super Kids.
Yeah, there's a school in Charlotte.
Is it a good literacy program?
And you said Dreambox is supplemental?
Yes,
Okay.
Super Kids has a strong phonetic component to it,
absolutely. Yes.
which I think is extremely important. If kids are going to, that's how you teach them to read, and then they can read to learn. But
Right.
if they can't read, they'll never be able to read to learn.
Absolutely.
Is there read to achieve data that verifies that with the particular school that you're talking about?
It's a private school.
Oh,
But it deals with the same population that that you're going to be trying to reach.
Right.
And if you want to go visit the school, I'll put you in touch with it.
That would be great.
It's a private school.
Okay. Thank you. That would be great.
But interesting thing about the school, just tidbit, is all the children are scholarshiped.
What is
Oh, wow. That sounds
what-
amazing.
what is
Yes.
something specific maybe that you're taking from Phoenix that you would say from the ed plan component? Is there something that you could say this is an aspect of that school's program that we really want to take and nail?
One of the things that I just previously discussed that's really cool, because I actually worked at Phoenix, so I got to get hands-on experience with the TAP program, which is really cool. Is teacher assistance team. So basically, it's a group of experienced teachers. A teacher come and they give, like, if a child is struggling or need a specific area, whether it be academic or behavior, they provide the teacher with a research-based strategies for them to run, and they run the strategy within the class with the student to see if there's an improvement, and just basically give them skills and tools that they really need. So that's something that I really want to bring to the new school, because it helps with the kids and it helps the teacher get the assistance that they need with a peer.
Cool.
You know, I really like the focus on literacy and character. You know, the community that you talk about, I think that would be a really good focus to do on there. And I know I don't want to get too much into it, but about 2 years ago, I got the opportunity to meet Robert J. Brown, and just thought he was a fascinating man. Sat and listened to stories, and I didn't know it had been an hour and a half that he'd been talking. It felt like about 5 minutes because he was there, but so I told him when he was doing that, I said, you need to write a book, and he said, keep your eye out. And so he was writing one, and so I picked up the book and I read it, and I didn't read the whole thing yet because it just came out yesterday. It was on my desk when I
He
got
has
home.
a copy.
I did. I brought it just in case he was here because I could get him to sign it. But I was fascinated in the last chapter. It's called Smuggling and Other Good Deeds, and so when you see something like that, I'm like, okay, I've got to read it. The man smuggled books into South Africa where it was illegal for black children to read. where it was illegal for black children to even have a book, and basically stared down a guy that had a whip in his face and said, I'm going to pass these books out. And so I figure he'll probably have a little easier go getting books in the hands of kids in High Point. So, but I mean, to me, that, it speaks a lot and to think, and I know we're supposed to be asking questions now, so I'll just stop.
Well, I want to talk a little bit, because the education plan, you've articulated it, and I appreciate that. You did a great job. It was not in the application, but I want to hear more about this wraparound services, hitting the community, holistic approach of literally revitalization.
Okay. And as they come to talk about that, I want to share with you a letter. I think you may have copies of it, from the mayor, who had met with Mr. Brown and asked him to definitely do everything that he could to contribute to the revitalization of the Brentwood neighborhood. And so the mayor sent us a letter of support. Should be entered into your record.
Could you, and I'm looking at it right now, let me just say, this is from the mayor, and it's saying, it's my firm belief that the academy will have a profound impact on our city's children, as well as help revitalization of the neighborhood. So.
Yes, and that's the reason we included the Community Impact Center, that we will be a part of our academy.
Okay, so tell me about what you did in DC, and also tell me what effect did it have on the schools?
So I'm gonna talk, this time I'm not gonna talk as much because we didn't give Tom, he's the real workforce guru when it comes to matching people with jobs.
And he's moving here too?
He is, he is. We work together in DC.
Okay.
Right now, as we speak, I go back and forth to do work and do it electronically now for him. So just so that you understand what this looks like, it's servicing an entire community with actually looking at what we consider an asset mapping of what's happening in that community today. We understand how important education is, but for families, if they are actually unemployed or underemployed or are not able to take care of their families, you see a streamline of a lot of things. Definitely a pipeline to prison. You also see individuals stuck in poverty. You see more families receiving government entity benefits, which all we know impacts a neighborhood so negatively that it pulls it down. A community impact center is the hub of a community that provide outlets for families to grow in various different aspects, from GED, college planning, technical trades, and you match those individuals. The carrot is having a job at the beginning. So the benefit of this group, and I'm gonna move on and let Tom speak, but the benefit of us is having Mr. Carl Robinson at the table. Because here in High Point, Tom and I don't know your industry. We're learning. But we know the model that we actually created in DC, which is evidence-based and evaluated. That model can be picked up and put anywhere where there are people. All we need is the jobs at the beginning and the ability to be able to train individuals knowing that they have a job. What I'm able to do, which provides assistance to this 6-foot-tall gentleman, is when we have a young person or family that's new to employment, what we're able to do so that Carl doesn't have the problem with that person coming to work on time, because we know things happens in a family. So when a family's having trouble with childcare, Carl doesn't want to hear that. But I'm the coach. I can deal with that. So I can say to Brenda, I got you. I'm going to work on the childcare. You go to work. I'll make sure we get this settled. And I can say to Carl, I'll take that burden off of you. I know you dealt with it all day yesterday. Give Brenda a chance. We need her to be gainfully employed. So this coaching mechanism provides a holistic services for families who live in Brentwood and the children who are coming to that school, so they can focus on their education and we can focus on providing wraparound services for the family.
Okay, so you're directly going to provide the wraparound services for the families of the children who are attending this school.
And that community. One of the things we wanted to be mindful of, because again, what we do in DC is different here. DC, you go to neighborhood schools. You walk to your school. In this particular county, you can drive to your school. So we understand that it may be not just the students that actually live in the Brentwood community. So those students plus people who are coming from other counties to come to this school.
Well, there isn't much left to say.
I tried.
Well, you're a lot taller than 6 feet.
Well, you know, if I can put it in this context, one of the things we had a lot of success in the school that Ms. Williams founded, Young America Works, with helping young people deal with the trauma of life. I'm a product of the trauma of life. Obviously, Mr. Robert J. Brown experienced some traumas in his early life that he was able to navigate through. And there are many sciences and approaches to this, which I won't bore you with today. But at the end of the day, when you go into a neighborhood that's strained, the biggest thing they're asking for is hope and opportunity. I need to know that there's something out there that I can live for, step up for, and pursue. And then I need to know jobs at the beginning, meaning knowing that there's real possibility that if I navigate through what you're saying, that's the hope, I'll actually have something that matters to me when this all ends up that's tangible. So tying all those things together is working closely with the business community, you know, certainly with the elected leaders, and also the community at large to get an idea of what are the things that you're afraid of? What are the things that cause you not to feel comfortable trying? One of the mantras of our approach is, I am not what happened to me. Because oftentimes when you've been through things generationally, or if you experience things environmentally in your community, you feel stagnated just the attempt to move forward because you feel that you're unqualified to even try in many cases, not all, but many. So we do a lot to help instill that. Now, look at what's happening. The magic is the new level of support that this child that we're spending all this time investing in, developing, has a different kind of environment to exist in and involve in. So that connecting that right physically on the premises and on the campus is big because it's convenient for the family and the child to get the kind of services, and it's easier to track, and there's so many other things. But hopefully that addressed and give you a basic idea of how we approach this.
Take a few minutes now, and I don't mean to consume the time here, but talk to us about the facility, because that's also extremely important with acceleration. And so the story, I appreciate the story of the facility, but tell me, is it going to be, is there any way it can be ready? 30 years?
Well, the facility that we're purchasing is for $750,000. It has 7 acres. It's 2 buildings. One building is 15,000 square feet, and the other one is 30,000 square feet. The 15,000 square feet can be upfitted in approximately 3 months. And then we'll have plenty of room to teach the first 300 students. So it'll take if we start in March, it'll be done by July. It'll be ready and up and ready to run.
Okay, so you'll have to get your certificate of occupancy for an education facility.
All that's already in the works, and it was a school. That's what it was. It was an elementary school when I was a kid. I didn't ever go there. I went to Montlou, but it was an elementary school when I was a kid. It was an elementary school. And the other thing that I think that we're missing a piece of the picture. Yes, we're going to teach the students, but the wraparound services actually help the students and the parents. And we really need to reiterate that. A lot of times we forget that the parents, just like with jobs, I'm on the board for workforce development. I'm the chairman of workforce development. I'm also on the board for economic development for the county. And I have meetings regularly with the mayors of both cities, and Greensboro and High Point. And how do I put this? We have business services people that make I'm gonna say relationships with our businesses in the community. Mm-hmm. We have education on another level, as far as GTCC is our community college, and I'm also on the foundation board for GTCC with Dr. Parker. So we have ways to get services that information is there. The information is there. The problem is we don't really get it out to the community well. We have the ability to put services directly inside the school system if they have the facilities there. Right. So that's another unique thing. We got to come up with different ways to, this is a new day. We can't educate just the children. We have to educate the parents too and get them employed.
It sounds like that you could help with a certificate of occupancy, knowing the people that you know in the city and county.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Has the building been abandoned for a while? Does it need a lot of work?
It's been unoccupied. The church owns it right now. Williams Memorial Church owns it right now. We've already negotiated with them the price and so on. All the things is already in motion. We have the ability, I mean, again, we have the mayors and the building inspectors and everything already in motion.
Okay. All right.
That answers the question.
Any other comments going to the budget? Governance question.
Just wanted to ask about, I'm sorry, ma'am, your name? Brenda, Miss Brenda, Miss Williams. You cited opening the school in DC and running that. You were we're aware that school was revoked by the DC Public Charter School Board. Could you provide some context for that?
Certainly. I started the school in 2004. It was a vocational high school, and I had been the chief of staff of the then mayor, Marion Barry, who was a supporter of the school. Most of my children came out of the area from Southeast that Ms. Reeder talked about. And I was in a upper northwest section of Washington, D.C. that did not want Southeast kids in the area. And so it became a political football to get those children out of the area because they did not consider them, I guess, worthy. And I'm thinking, because one of the things that Marion said to me when I went to him and said, I'm getting too many complaints, I need to know what to do. He said, you got trash can kids out of my ward, and they don't want them up in Northwest. So you may have to take this hit and have the school revoked, sit it out for a couple of years, and come back and do something else. It was purely political. I graduated 97% in my first graduating class. DC's rate was 55%. My second graduating class was 96%, and my third graduating class was 93%. I was doing much better than the public school system in Washington, D.C., and they could not have that. That was the reason that with that and the community making a decision that they did not want trash can kids in their area was the reason it was revoked.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm good on that.
Right. Any other questions?
In the event that this facility isn't ready in time, what's the backup plan?
We already have buildings, annex buildings. We're putting, I call them Butler buildings. I don't know what the new name is, but they'll be buildings that can be put on the property.
So you already have an
yes,
agreement?
Everything is in motion. Everything is in motion. We're just in a holding pattern right now.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead. If there's not any further questions from the board, let's go into a deliberation time here.
I'll finish saying what I started saying before. I didn't want to cut too much into the question and answer time. But, you know, I really hate that Robert Brown couldn't be here today, but I certainly understand when you start writing a book and you've got a publisher and they're like, okay, here's your schedule, and it's set a year in advance, and you're on TV and on radio and everything talking about the book. It's one thing, but you know, to look at, you know, his background and his bio, and to see that you know, he was a advisor to Martin Luther King Jr., that he went and picked up his body with his family after his assassination. That he worked in the White House. He actually worked closely with Robert Kennedy, and then also worked for Richard Nixon, and created one of the minority offices there, and worked at that, put it together, was very successful. Worked with Nelson Mandela, actually brought Nelson Mandela's kids from South Africa to the United States to have them college educated. And the reason I say all that out is not to, you know, to puff up Robert J. Brown, but to say a man with that kind of experience, when he sets his mind to something, and when he knows how to put together a team, and because that's what he's done. He's been a team builder his whole life, and I think to me that goes a long way in this. I kind of like the education plan. I thought the external evaluators were overly harsh on the education plan. I think the governance structure is confusing, and it should have been spelled out a little bit more clearly. I think anytime, of course, education people always have to use acronyms for everything. And I think when you got all those acronyms in there, I didn't know if I was reading an application or eating alphabet soup. And that's what happens sometimes. I think there is a structure that's there. And, I think there's a great need. I think the school is named after a man who is the hero of High Point. And I think it takes, how many students is it in year one?
200.
300. I think Robert J. Brown knocks on 300 doors. They have more than enough students because that's all it's going to take. I think the school, I like the school. I think it would be much needed in that area. That area is, it's almost an island to itself in High Point, and to have the support of the mayor of High Point, I think speaks a lot of the school as well. But that's my 2 cents.
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
I just, not to, what did you say earlier? Feed a
fed horse.
Feed a fed horse.
Instead of beating a dead horse.
Instead of beating a dead horse. Yeah, I too agree. I thought the education plan was actually stronger than what the education of the evaluators were, and particularly in some of the resources you're using for math. By no means an expert, but very aware of Dr. Brown's work. He's not just a treasure of High Point, he's a treasure of this country. But maybe just as importantly, more importantly than that is, that's all well and good, but if you don't have the feet on the street to pull this off, and the right leadership team, it won't work. So I've been really impressed with the group you have here today, and have confidence that you can do this.
Thank you. Let me just close, if I may, by saying I talked to Mr. Brown last night, and I told him that we were coming to do this. I can't.
Okay, we're going into.
Oh, you're finished?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Okay, any other comments?
I mean,
Phyllis had a comment.
I know.
I'm very, I'm compelled by the board. I'm compelled by Robert J. Brown's story. Obviously, I want to continue to learn even more, and certainly, Phoenix has a strong track record, so they're partnering with us, people that have good experience. I'm not convinced that it meets the criteria for acceleration. I don't think that it seems like the representation at the RTOs was somewhat spotty. I do believe you that based on his reputation that we could potentially produce the students. I just feel like some clarity around the management structures. I think there could be a lot of there's some things that could really get ironed out, because as much as he is clearly compelling, the work is in the weeds. As the ma'am Ms. Williams knows, who opened a charter school. I mean, the work is down in the details and grinding, and fleshing out some of these components. So my feeling is just that this has the potential, particularly with the wraparound services that they're providing. That's just awesome. I just want it to be a win. I don't want to rush it. It is compelling, but I also don't want us to rush into it and I think, I go back to, I think we've seen the benefits of folks who have taken time to really get things dialed right, so that they're very, very strong. And when we rush, sometimes it doesn't produce the vision that is kind of aspired to in the application and in what we hear from the board. So, I will say, I think clearly he's a person that is well known. I think it's gonna be challenging to argue. Yes, I say we're discounting some of the scores, but it's gonna be difficult because the state board's gonna see that. It's gonna be difficult to argue that yes, I think there's need in this specific area, but it's still a county that already has a lot of charter schools. So I think arguing the acceleration gets a little bit more complicated at the state board level. So I think a year of prep as they get ready to open could really ensure a very, very strong opening for a school that I think would potentially be really valuable, just a big success story in this community. That's just where, based on how I'm evaluating it now.
Okay.
I'd just like to say, I am glad to see that Mr. Brown is being honored in such a way, because he is very valuable to Guilford County, and that's where I'm from, where I live. Not in the city, either one of them. But I am sorry to see that he had to have such a convoluted congregation of people to run it. And we got a lot of people really good in Guilford County. But anyway, I'm glad to see him honored, and I will vote. I can't see the rationale for
Acceleration.
Acceleration, thank you very much. But I am glad to see him being honored, but I wish it could have a more simple organizational chart. Yes.
Mr. Chair, as important as the legacy of Mr. Brown is, what's more important is the success of the school and those children. And I really admire the mission of the wraparound services and lifting up the entire community and getting the parents involved. But the onus shouldn't, or the focus shouldn't be on protecting the legacy. It should be on the mission of this school and the children. And for the same reason as Phyllis, I'm going to probably take a pass on the acceleration, but I'm going to be fully supportive of the school. Yeah. That part of High Point really, really needs a public charter school like this. Guilford County Schools is really dropping the ball in South High Point. And this school is going to be a boon to all of those children and the parents in that part of South and East High Point.
Sure.
Thank you for saying that so much better than I could.
Well, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, Joe, you want to say something?
I'll say one last thing at the risk of my chairman not being very happy with me. But I'd say if there's a group that can pull off acceleration with the support they have, with the drive they have behind the well-known figure who's going to be at the head of this school, no doubt in my mind they'll have the numbers, they have a facility, they've got everything they need. The one negative, and I agree, I can't disagree, is this is not a county with no charter schools. There are schools there. But is that enough to say this school doesn't deserve to get open as quickly as possible and meet a dire need that's been well expressed? I'm 1,000% confident whether it's this year or next year, this group will be tremendously successful. I'd prefer to see it sooner rather than later. I'll leave it there.
Okay.
I also support the school. I think the school's going to be fabulous. I love the idea of the wraparound services. I think when we start talking about acceleration, we have a set of criteria that we use for acceleration, and that's what we have to go with. And because you're famous doesn't change that. Right. And part of our criteria is that the facility has to be ready to go, and this one's not. And so I can't vote for acceleration. I absolutely will vote for the school, though.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we not move Robert J. Brown, not recommend to the state board Robert J. Brown leadership for acceleration, but that we move them into the ready to open for 2020, 2021.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second. Any other discussion?
I'm gonna vote for the motion. I would have probably voted for acceleration too, but I can count votes as good as anybody else can. And so it's combined together, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to vote for this motion, although I think I would have likely voted for an acceleration there, but I'm going to vote for this motion.
Yeah, it'd be good for the for the vote for ready to open, not acceleration, to be unanimous.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna do the same because we do have a criteria and you're very persuasive, but the things we've asked for the other we've had a very high bar for acceleration, very high bar.
I'm going to support the motion, but I'm with Mr. Walker. I would have leaned towards acceleration. I just put that out there.
Okay. Been properly moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion carries
Motion
unanimously.
carries.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I'm sorry. So that means we don't open this fall, we don't get it to be open next year.
Next
2020.
2020.
We do have a charter. but
You
we
have
don't
a
open
charter.
until
Well, the state board has to
2020.
approve it.
Right.
Once the state board approves it,
You will open in the fall of 2020, so a
Not
year
the
from now.
fall of
So you have
19.
a year to get ready.
thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Are we gonna have a break?
I think
we
bio
should.
break.
Yeah.
I need-
Bio break.
This next one's
Why are we supposed to listen to that book? Complicated.
Amazon.
You're very persuasive. It's all in you.
This has been a long week.
This is too many interviews.
Is it Tuesday or Wednesday?
3 days.
Wednesday.
3 days.
Wednesday.
Oh.
Too many,
I can sleep late. No, I can't. I got a appointment. I heard that 9 o'clock in the
come
morning.
back to, DPI.
I don't know.
Who's Candy come back to DPI?
Another part of the state.
She's not?
Thank God, what? What did you say?
She's got a tab.
Does she have a tab?
Yes.
Well, that's interesting.
She's got a name tag.
Oh, gosh, I missed that.
She was back there yesterday. She was back there yesterday too.
Yeah, I saw, but I thought she was just doing, she was I better go back there.
Gotta find out.
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
I know. So far, they look pretty.
You a Patriots fan? Yep.
Yeah, isn't it hurt?
Chief of Staff. snoring crap. She's, that is pretty.
We're at the ninth inning now. We're close.
Sorry. And what you cooking today?
We can pass around this one, these caramel. You like the caramel?
I'm gonna tag along. The butter patty.
Or the peanut butter sandwiches.
These are my favorite,
Oh, they have new packaging.
but these are my.
It's got a new kind.
Those are my favorites, the Samoas.
You want one?
No.
They changed
Oh,
the
they changed the
name.
name of it. It used to be called Samoas. Different
It's regional.
Oh.
I figured it was some kind of PC thing.
Would you
get mad? I think there's two plants that make this, but they have different names.
Oh, really?
I think, not that I'd rather about this.
Samoas are my favorite. I love Samoas.
Cranberry crisps. I don't think they came back.
Yeah, I don't do anything gluten-free.
We had a bunch left. So much
Yeah, okay. It was expected. I could see.
It was so good.
To see that. All right, Mr. Chair. They gave me the whole thing this afternoon. You want to do the next one?
You got it. You're rocking and rolling.
Okay. You said we'd beat back at what time? Did I say a time? I may not have said a
You
time.
didn't say a time.
Oh, no. That's not good. We're already behind. Let's go ahead and see if I can grab everybody. Go in the back talking.
It's never that way. You want a Girl Scout cookie? You know, it's not 1 o'clock, you can't have one.
I'm trying to hold off.
So we could get some snacks.
Well, I'm glad the first one. I think somebody else said something they shouldn't have said, besides me.
Okay.
I'm good at it.
I received that.
Right, I was.
You received my gift.
I do receive
It's
it.
all given in love.
I know, that's why I get it. I do that. Sometimes it gets in my head, it just pops out.
I know.
Me too, sometimes. I
Believe
wish
me,
it didn't, but
I'm
gotta
one that
let it pop out.
has to constrain my tongue a lot.
Power Elite, this is a clarification, so guys, it's gonna go kind of fast.
Who is leading this one?
That won't take long.
I am. They gave me this.
Our son is down.
They can't do
Well, I
that
see
to
a
us,
little
all
bit.
the hours at the same time.
You guys ready?
Wait till Cheryl gets back. Stephen. Do you wanna, we're running.
Cinder's there today.
I haven't heard from him, no idea. I was with him last night at 6:30 and 7. We were our numbers for next year and his portable situation.
Does he ever go home? I see emails at 1 o'clock.
That's what she's.
Well, I want to.
So
Like,
occasionally what we'll do is we'll get
you know.
So why are we going to
But
say
they
anything?
would say the same
to the local church thing.
thing. We're on whiteboard.
Work until sometimes we'll get to- My phone will be ringing at 6:30 in the morning.
Okay, let's reconvene. Everybody here?
Oh, energizing,
One
buddy.
second, just to get them up on the screen.
Joe will be back later.
Joe can't move.
Yeah, I know. Dr. Allen, whenever you're ready.
We don't care what Joe says anyway. We don't care what Joe says.
It's clarification.
This is a clarification,
Yeah.
so we're not an hour. I think we'll make it.
You ready? Okay. The applicant coming before the board today is Power Elite Preparatory Academy. This clarification interview will be conducted by the Performance Committee and led by co-chair Linda Lynn Kakadelis. They're proposing to locate in Mecklenburg County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 4, 120 students. Year 2, K through 5, 156 students. Year 3, K through 6, 203 students. Year 4, K through 7, 264 students. Year 5, K through 8, 342 students. We did not have an LEA impact statement or due diligence completed for this application. The pass-fail ratings are as follows. Mission, purposes, and goals, 1 pass, 4 fail. Education plan, all fail. Governance and capacity, all fail. Operations, all fail. Finance, all fail. This applicant is not requesting any special consideration. They are not a repeat applicant. They did receive assistance from Torchlight Academy Schools and do intend to partner with that organization. And this application was deemed complete on October 12, 2018. You all have 5 minutes to introduce yourselves and provide a statement.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Weeks. I want to talk about I'm a board member for the school. I represent I'm the secretary for the board. Okay.
Alrighty. Good afternoon. My name is Rochelle V. Gray, and I am the board chair. I listened as a young lady talk about the different fails, and we did provide some clarity as to why those things happen. We're before you today to talk about why we believe there be an all-male school in Charlotte. And while I'm here, we also have Miss LaShare Wright, which I'm going to ask to come up. We have 2 other board members. That our treasurer is not here today. She is recuperating from surgery. And our board chair, Ms. Cheryl Monsanto, is presenting before where she works for Wells Fargo. She is in management, and she had to make a presentation for an international company today. That's why they're not with us. So I'm going to ask Mr. Shea to come up for a moment, Mr. Weeks, and then myself will follow. Thank you.
Thank
again, my name is LaShare Wright. I am a board member. I am also an employee of a summer year-round program, and I work with scholars as well as parent engagement.
Okay.
That's us.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's talk about any clarification questions or discussions on that.
I did look at the document that was submitted for clarification, like 254 pages worth, and the responses to some of the external evaluators' concerns, whatever. And I understand that, but I think the name of the school is going to be Power Elite Preparatory Academy. Although, other than at the beginning of the application and the mission, everywhere else, completely throughout the application, it was referred to as the Power Male Preparatory Academy or by some other name. Power Elite Male Academy. So I guess I need clarification. Yes, it is exactly this or not. That's my first question. With that being said, I thought the mission itself was very nonspecific for a very specialized school. And when I say specialized, the school is targeting at-risk males, but the mission doesn't portray that.
Okay.
Let's start with that.
We'll start with that. Let's clarify the name of the school and then also the specific mission and how it's going to be accomplished.
All right, so in regards to the name of the school, it is registered as Power Elite Preparatory. When we had community meetings, people, the community were asking, well, why are we not referencing the male part of it as the name? Because there are other schools who are registered as one thing, such as Wake County Leadership, but they're doing business as the Wake Leadership Male Academy. So that is what we will be doing. We will be registering a DBA to have it be doing business as Power Elite Male Academy so that the community can see, when they see the name, that it is a male academy.
Why not call it Power Elite Male Academy straight up?
And we can. That's why we're before you to see what we can do, because we can go back and change that. But again, we're new. We're here before you to learn and to take every critique and suggestion that you have.
I would select
so
one
moving
or the
forward
other.
that we will do that.
Make it,
Make
you were
it
here at the
clear.
last,
Simple.
make it
Yes,
clear,
that's
very
correct.
clear.
Yes. In regards to the mission statement, I am an educator for 20 years plus, and what we have found is within the districts, there's always one set rule that everyone follows as far as the standard, and that's what we were looking at for the application, which is why we didn't specifically talk about males, and that, of course, was a mistake on our part. We provided clarification. We will provide wraparound services. We are looking at things that are culturally competent in regards to males. I have had 3 all-male classes within the last 3 years in Charlotte, and we do see that there are things that we have to provide for them in terms of culture, what is culturally competent, even how to walk, how to use your voice, how to have people perceive you, and that is one of the reasons why. So that's what we're going to be doing in regards to them. The name Power Elite comes from a sociologist called C. Wright Mills, and he talks about the fact that there are parents who teach their kids from day one that you are the Power Elite. You have to be taught to be leaders. We want our males to take their place and to be leaders in education, in military, in the corporate, in the finance world. And that is what the name stands for, and that is what the mission statement will be alluded to, and what we'll be teaching them.
I'm so glad you said that, but
Thank
why
you.
was that not included in your application?
Because we are young and we are new and we are learning, and again, we are here to take every
That's the
suggestion.
kind of things that we need to know.
And we did put that in the
here.
reclarification, but yes, that's what we will be doing.
As with the mission, I appreciate your honesty.
Thank you.
Because, you know, as a parent, if I'm a parent and I'm looking at, you know, what's up and coming in my area for choice for my child, I need to know that you are going to be an all-male academy and you're seeking to instill that power in that student. So those things need to be incorporated.
And they will, thank you.
Okay, I have one question. Under the governance section, it talked about William Walton, and he's stated in the narrative as a board member, but I didn't see him there.
And that is an
There-
error. We had to make a change. That is an
Okay.
error. So we have a new, that's where Mr. Sherright is coming in.
Okay, so
Okay.
Mr. Walton is not on your board anymore?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Back to the single gender, if I may, Ms. Gray.
Yes.
I know you're using Torchlight as your CMO.
We are.
And I think in the application it did reference where Torchlight had single gender classrooms. Have you had the opportunity, I don't know, I know we approved an all-male academy, I think, was it Guilford County? But it hasn't opened yet.
Not yet.
Have you
And
had
they've
the
asked for a
oppor-
one-year delay also.
Okay. Have you had the opportunity to visit any schools? And then you said you taught an all-male, so you have
I have.
familiarity with
Yes, I have.
the
Yes, I do.
gender issues.
I currently have one now. My classroom has 23 males. Right
What
now.
What's
grade?
the subject?
I teach social studies, and the awesome thing about it is because of their beliefs and because we speak to who they are as far as genius in regards to the curriculum, I achieved high growth last year.
Yes,
And they're doing very
social
well this
studies
year.
would be
But the
rich.
sad part is, I teach 8th grade, and not one of my 8th graders are on grade level. Although they've been in the district since kindergarten, and only 4 of them have IEPs, the highest reading level right now is 5.7.
It's not surprising,
We
unfortunately.
want to change that.
Yeah.
Good. Have you had the opportunity to visit an all-male academy?
I have been to Urban Prep in Chicago, and we will be visiting Torchlight today. And also where my previous experience from New Jersey as this Catholic all boys as well as St. Peter's Prep.
So that's great, because then you are aware of the very specific issues that you're trying to target.
I am, and again, in regards to my experience for last year, 28 males, only 1 suspension, and that was because a person was brought into our group, and rather than bow to someone disrupting, they actually got into a little skirmish. But 2 of those gentlemen who had never even been to school last year graduated on the honor roll and spoke at graduation. So we are very proud. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished so far with males.
Okay.
Seems like that.
I had a question. I'm going to jump down just to marketing plan because I think it's a typo. In your marketing plan, it talks about opening the school 2019.
Initially, we were going for
Acceleration.
Speedy accelerated, thank you.
Acceleration.
And a box was not checked. And again, we're novices and we're learning. So because the box was not checked, some of the forms were not downloaded. Although we alluded into the application several times that we wanted to have the fast start for the year 2019. We have secured a building, which I would like Mr. Lashare to speak about, and the reference it has to the community, the building that we have gotten.
I'm sorry, what?
The building that we have secured. I wanted
Yes,
her to speak
I
to
had a
it.
question about
Yes.
that.
Mhm, the marketing.
Is Cher gonna answer that, or?
Yes.
Okay, good, because it looks like, I think based on the documents attached, that the actual facility would be purchased by Torchlight and then leased back to.
That's correct.
To the
Until we
school.
have
But the 2 properties that were potential properties are, one was like a $300,000, which was like a steal, and the other one was a couple million. So if somebody could speak to me about the 2 properties.
Yeah, why don't we just talk? But
We
remember,
can.
this is clarification, guys.
Well, that would be clarification, right?
Okay, I'm gonna let Mr. Hughes, but I would like for you to talk about the community piece
We'll
and
just
why
do it.
that 300,000 is the way it is.
Not really.
Go right ahead, Don.
Thank you. I certainly prefer the $300,000 facility as well.
Absolutely.
You know, we're a startup, and what we looked at is that we visited the school, talked with the owner operator. She is transitioning. She's going to be leaving to go out of country, and so that building is up for sale, as well as the student body that she's leaving behind. And she kind of really wants someone to kind of take over that legacy. So we put an offer in last week, and we're waiting for a right back on that offer. I think it's a little less than $300,000, so we're in negotiations trying to acquire that facility.
What kind of school does she have there?
It is private school. And it's been operating as a school
for
for
28 years in our community.
28.
How many males in that school?
Right now, 20 males are prepared to come be with us
Yes.
entirely.
Yes. It has a great reputation in that location.
What is the name of the school?
Brisbane Academy.
Oh, yeah.
This year?
Yeah.
Brisbane.
Brisbane Academy.
They've actually touched on a couple of things that I was going to mention, but yes, we do have a facility. Brisbane Academy has been in operation for approximately 28 years. They are a staple in the community. They have 20 young males who have already, expressed interest in coming on board with us. One of the unique things about Brisbane is that it's right across the street from Ransom Middle School. They're in their Project Lift area, so we know it's an urban district. And the high school in that area, graduation rate was, I believe, about 38%.
Oh, yeah.
And even after acquiring $50 million, within a few years, the graduation rate has only been risen to 44%. So there's still a great need in that area as well. Like we did mention, the compensating factor is that the students are already there. And also, I just want to make mention that the school was a private school. The parents are already interested in paying money, even though they have a public school across the street, which means that they're already looking for alternative options for their children to give their children a better educational choice, which we'll be able to provide.
Still want me to share?
Share. What's your last name, honey? I'm sorry.
Right.
That's right. What is your background?
So it's a little bit interesting. I am a board member for NAFT at the local high school, Philippa Berry High School. I'm also an employee of Freedom School Partners. So I work very closely with the scholars and the parents. And so I see the gap over the summertime and work with parents about getting school choices throughout the year.
Okay.
Can I just make a motion? Bring them forward to interview.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I think it gets a second.
I would like to make a motion that we bring Power Elite Preparatory Academy before the full board for an interview.
Okay.
A second.
Any discussion?
Is this your committee motion?
That's committee.
Right. Okay, hearing none. That's Performance Committee. Let's vote. All in favor?
Oh,
Okay. There's no opposed.
okay.
Okay. So hearing no objection, the motion passes. So, Mr. Chair, I bring it forward to you for the full board's vote.
All right. Are you making a motion
Is that
with
a
the
motion?
second?
I'm making the motion that we move
I'll
it forward.
All right. And it's properly moved and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. We'll see you back for a full interview.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will take in consideration everything you said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the time is 12:41.
Can we just go ahead and get started on next month? We might as well just stay all week.
Yeah, seriously.
Can we, what are the specific dates for next month?
Chairman Wigley,
We ought to make some
Dr. Allen is going to give you an update on the applications that you've seen and how many have been approved and what you have left.
Great.
Okay.
All right, don't run away, people. We gotta, Dr. Allen's gonna give us our breakdown on what we're talking about, all the decisions we've made, lest you have forgotten and can't retain them all in your brain like
That's
that.
why I write them on a chart. 'Cause I cannot.
Okay, so we, a quick rundown of the charter applications that we have reviewed thus far. So as you know, we had 35 applications submitted by the October 1 deadline. 2 of those applications were withdrawn prior to clarification. 14 of the remaining 33 groups requested acceleration. Of those 14, 6 were not recommended to open. 3 were approved or recommended for an accelerated open, and 5 were recommended for the traditional regular open on a 2020-2021 timeline.
So the 6 were just no altogether.
Correct. That was Old Main Stream, Clara Science,
That's right.
Omega School of the Arts, Lighthouse Charter, North Davidson Charter, and then Rise Academy.
We'll email all this to you too.
Okay, yeah, all right.
And so next month, as you know, we have 7 groups, and we outlined that in the application update that I provided on Monday. And I'll send out an email with the specific committee assignments later this week. But we have 7 clarifications next month, and then 6 the month after that. And based on the recommendations that you all made at this meeting, we have, 3 full interviews next month. We have Power Elite, we have Doral, and then we have the 2 other replications, North Raleigh and Wendell Falls.
And,
Wendell.
what's the other one?
Will we do those?
Achievement Charter. The
Yes,
only one you
Achievement
did
Charter.
not forward was Bermuda Run.
Right.
Wait, so,
How many of that?
so we're already
5.
at 8 schools that we've approved?
Yes.
Yikes.
3 accelerated and 5 RTM. So of those 5, is that grouping the Raleigh and the Wendell?
I counted those separately. Do you all normally?
No, because they don't they have to interview twice for both?
They've got the same
usually put
board.
them next to each other, so it's kind of back to back, but yeah.
They have the same exact.
Do them individually.
It's 2 different charters.
But same board.
No, 2 different, no, same board.
Same board,
Same
2
board.
charters.
Okay. So tell me one more time, Danielle.
Those
sorry.
5? No, it's 5.
5.
I mean, yes.
So 5 interviews.
Correct.
7
Next month.
clarifications.
7.
5 interviews. That's a full day.
7 clarifications.
7 it's a full day.
That's another full day, but that puts us at 2 days.
2
It
days.
depends. We can bang through some of those clarifications.
We could maybe get it done in a day and a half.
But still, I mean, for somebody like
I don't
us, it's
recommend
2 days.
us doing
It's 2
5
days.
interviews in one day.
Yeah.
I think we
So we
do
need to break 'em
3
And
and
two.
2,
Yeah.
and then stack
the
the clarifications in the
Clarifications.
afternoon.
3 and 4.
Do we have anything else we have to do?
Yes, we're
We're done
supposed to
with
see.
renewals.
We're supposed to see the Bladen School again.
And we also
Paul
hope
R. Brown.
Yeah, I want Paul R. Brown to come back.
They're slated to come back. I also, you normally would see the remaining low performing schools presentations.
Never mind, it'll take 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
because
that's
we
2
also
days
need
right
to
there. There's a full.
discuss the application timeline and process for this year, because it needs to go to state board,
April?
right, so we can hopefully get it approved by May. So
Let's go to 2.5
we're trying to
days.
discuss that with y'all next month.
No, 2
No,
days.
let's
It's
do
2
that.
days.
Let's
We'll
do
2
2.
days.
Please.
It'll be
This
2
is
days.
hard.
3 days.
So
Being out of school for 3
there's
days.
7 clarifications next month for March interviews, and then there's 6 clarifications in March for April interviews?
Yes.
How do we have that many left?
Ooh.
Because we had
Because there was 35.
we had 14 requesting acceleration. And we had to do all those.
It's too many schools.
And we,
Yeah.
And we had
What do
30
you think
some
is
renewals.
your office's capacity of schools in the ready to open pipeline?
Ask me that again.
Yikes.
Like
Dang.
right now, we're already at 5
Oh,
traditional.
how many?
Like we've averaged between 8 to 11, I would say.
Last
each
year was
year.
11, right?
You talking about like the capacity of our team to do 15 schools in RTO, 20 schools in RTO? I think,
One presentation, right? So
yeah, I don't think
whether
the number
there's
really
10 or 20.
affects our ability to do it because it is, they all come and listen to the day-long session, so,
They all should come, right?
yes.
Well, and I
They
think
don't
you're probably gonna
Look.
need more staff to.
You need more staff. to-
Yes, we do
down
need
the
more staff.
road.
And you need more staff, and I also just I want to impress upon us to start thinking about RTO as phase 2 of your application, because like if we we get another, we can't have another global achievers,
That's a good
right?
idea.
Where
That's a
we
thought.
just we shouldn't be afraid to
pull the plug.
pull the plug.
Well,
That is true, but the problem,
We see it, we know it.
we
pull
should
the
have
plug.
done that.
Yep.
Say you have to wait another
We
year,
saw,
you just
we
have to
saw
wait.
it.
we need to be able to give you a recommendation earlier than July.
Right.
And they're
We
supposed to
need that
open in August. We gotta
recommendation
move
in
that up.
May, June at the latest.
We wanna give you some proposals where we move the, application process up possibly a month. We're talking about possibly, doing it for 2 months instead of 3 months, so we can get this process started sooner. And we think RTO, there needs to be, and it could even be, maybe RTO is not completely finished, but there needs to be a point where we say, this school just is not ready.
Right.
And then, so they have some time too, but, a lot of these schools are renovating buildings, bringing in modulars, and we have to stop it, but there are some schools, like obviously the one we just closed, that they weren't ready, and,
Right. Given that most charter school application windows are at the beginning of the year, January to March, I mean, there's no
That's
reason why by March 31st,
shouldn't
they
have
should
their
have
numbers.
closed their application window, hopefully have a wait list, and we have a full report saying, here's the number of students they have as of March 31st, yes or no? And then we
Even
don't-
if we gave them till May, I'd be okay with that. but
May's good.
That,
I think
by
March.
July, you can't, they've
can't
already
be
got
out-
so much invested.
And you got so many students.
Yeah, what are you
and
supposed to
with the
do?
parents?
If you've got a full year of ready to
That's
open
true.
meetings
true.
and town hall meetings, there's no reason why you shouldn't be recruiting students in that January to March window.
Well, and
You
that's when
cannot
everybody
wait.
else is recruiting, so,
Right, it fits with what the whole state's doing.
yeah.
we've got some schools that are gonna be opening up in August that just did some groundbreaking ceremonies in January.
Did what?
They had groundbreaking ceremonies in January. It's even with your 1-year RTO plan, it's hard to open up a school
Can we,
Yeah.
under
can
this
we,
time frame.
what about
Delayed.
can we have a longer, is there any thought on having a longer ramp, like it's a 2-year?
I don't know what the General Assembly would say about that, but
I thought
I
we
think
were
if we
gonna
could get
adjourn
the-
at 12:30.
We have a lot of,
we can get the application process
here.
done sooner.
Really?
we have a lot of, we have a lot, or,
Well,
we've
I-
had a lot of, we've added a lot of charter schools, it's like, I think
But that's something
it's a
we're
good thing. I
discussing
just don't know if the,
next month
Yes,
you know,
we're gonna
about the application process.
give you some proposals.
How many, I'd like to know how many have delayed, where they went through RTO, but they ended up not opening on time. I'd like to know that when we're talking about all this, because I think that, there's a whole bunch of them, we said, yeah, go, and then they didn't go.
Right.
And,
Not only delayed, but just said, take it back. I don't want it
Well,
anymore.
we did a fast track and it didn't go anywhere.
So
That's
for-
just like the one with, the company that's bringing the two.
no,
Yeah, Cardinal
You know,
West.
I mean, and they beat us up about getting,
we had to have a special meeting in a
all
special
this
place.
stuff,
All
and,
kinds of stuff.
and now it's
Then
like,
it didn't
no.
happen.
So for the 2019 openings, we're gonna have a report next month, and I think we should include, where are they in the application process? Have they,
They
what's their
started taking
deadline?
it.
Have they started? Because we don't need to be in another situation like last year. We just don't.
It's very tough, and then with a lot of our new schools wanting new buildings versus churches
Settling for
and
something
renos,
less.
it's just hard, it's hard to do it, so. But again, if we could get the application process started sooner, finished sooner, possibly even start RTO sooner, that,
They were approved.
isn't there a barrier of the time that the frame in which the state board gives them that final approval? Because
it has to be done by,
late.
it has to be done by July, but, last year we got it to them in April so they could approve it in May. That's,
But then they have to do another. Don't they do another vote like in January before the?
well, no, we took it to them in April last year for discussion. They voted on it in May. And then we give them your recommendation on RTO July. So the schools that are currently in RTO, we'll be making a recommendation to you, and then you'll make that recommendation to the state board.
But that's the second, the recommendation, the approval of the actual charter happened in May. The final approval of the actual charter happened in April, May.
It'd be wonderful if we could get that done by April, but it's just difficult. How many more we gotta go here? And I think
Well, it's gonna be May before we get these, because we're
Are
gonna
we,
have the
are we, gonna-
6th.
so we've, now that we've finished the acceleration request, the 3 that we said yes, can we go ahead and present those to the
They'll,
city
they'll get approved in February.
in February? Perfect.
Maybe.
Gotta make it happen, Alex. Come on, you can do it.
Everybody's looking at me.
And those were, what were the 3? The Team CFA, Community Public Charter, Pocosin Innovative Charter, and then Hopgood.
Yeah. Continue discussion over lunch, Mr. Chair.
All right, I move to adjourn.
One more question. When are we gonna look at the applications for the grant?
For the CSP grant?
Yeah.
They're due to us March 31st, so it kind of depends on how many we get, but our initial goal is to get them reviewed through the month of April and have them to you for recommendation at the May meeting.
Perfect. So we should be finished with this.
Yeah.
Ideally, all these applications should be done in March, ready to open schools should be done in March in terms of their enrollment, where they are in facilities, and this way, April, May could be all grant and decisions on whether the RTO schools are ready to go. We can't wait till July or August anymore for those RTA schools.
We've got 6 clarifications in March, so we'll have the full interview if we
in
pass any of
April.
those.
Hopefully we can't make that happen in the future. We gotta get them all done in
I
March.
think we're really gonna have to look at moving the process up. Yeah.
Well, if we're gonna
Well,
have
we didn't have a-
acceleration like what we had, we've got to move the
I don't think
I
you're
also
gonna,
think
I don't think you're gonna
making-
see that large number of accelerations
Yeah,
anymore.
I think also making it clear, making it that if you apply for acceleration, that's it. And if you don't get acceleration, then you don't automatically get, because what happens then is people apply for acceleration to find out early.
It's tricky though, because the one we just, Robert Brown is a good example of like, yeah, I bet if
We really
if it
want-
was an up or down acceleration or
Yeah.
nothing, we probably would have
Would've
accelerated it
accelerated.
against our better judgment.
Yeah, that's true.
Still think they could.
I guess we
pull it
could
off.
always, we could,
Yeah, I think those.
what's that?
I still think they could have pulled it off though.
They've got a
because it
building
could
that's been
doesn't mean they
boarded up for
should.
30 years, Joe. 30 years.
Move to adjourn.
11th and 12th.
Move to
There's a
adjourn.
motion. Second, but.
Let's go. One time.